The champagne glass slipped from her fingers. Not because she was clumsy. Alara Quinn had steady hands. Hands that had stitched her own wounds, forged documents, and learned to survive in shadows. But when Dante Valenti looked up from across the Montclair Hotel ballroom, when those dark eyes cut through 200 bodies in designer gowns and found hers, she felt everything inside her freeze. He wasn't supposed to recognize her. She was invisible. Just another maid in a black uniform weaving between tables, collecting empty glasses, keeping her head down. That was the plan. Get close. Find proof. Expose the man who destroyed her father. But Dante Valenti didn't look away. The glass shattered against marble. Crystal exploded across the floor like tiny stars, and the conversation near her died. A woman in pearls gasped. A man in a tuxedo stepped back. And Alara dropped to her knees, hands shaking as she gathered the pieces. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Her voice came out wrong. Too thin. Too scared. Would you keep running if the person who destroyed everything you loved suddenly looked at you like they knew your name? Like they'd been waiting? Drop a comment and tell me what you'd do. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Rain hammered the windows behind her. Outside, the city blurred into streaks of gold and gray. Inside, the gala sparkled with lies. Businessmen who laundered money through charity foundations. Politicians who smiled for cameras and signed death warrants in private. Women who wore blood diamonds and pretended not to know. And at the center of it all, him. Dante Valenti stood near the stage, tall and perfectly still, dressed in black like he was attending a funeral. Maybe he was. Maybe he attended one every day. His father's empire had left plenty of bodies behind. Her father's was just one of them. Lucy and Quinn. Honest man. Foolish man. Dead man. Alara's throat burned. She could still see him slumped over his desk 3 years ago, a bullet through his temple, papers scattered everywhere. The police called it suicide. The media called it scandal. But Alara knew better. Her father didn't kill himself. Someone made it look that way. Someone named Valenti. She stood slowly, carrying the broken glass on a silver tray. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She had one job tonight. Get into Dante's private suite upstairs, find the files her father died protecting, and disappear before anyone noticed. Simple. Except nothing was simple anymore. Because Dante was walking toward her. His steps were quiet, deliberate. People moved out of his way without being asked. Conversations paused. The air itself seemed to shift when he passed through it, like the room knew who really owned it. Alara's hands tightened on the tray. Run. Every instinct screamed at her to turn and run. But her feet wouldn't move. She was stuck, caught between the girl she used to be and the woman she'd had to become. He stopped 3 feet away. Up close, Dante Valenti looked nothing like a monster. He had sharp cheekbones, dark hair pushed back from his face, and eyes that were almost sad. Almost. But Alara had learned not to trust almost. Almost sorry. Almost innocent. Almost human. You dropped something, he said quietly. His voice was smooth, controlled. No accent. No threat. Just a statement. Alara forced herself to meet his gaze. It won't happen again, sir. I'm sure it won't. He tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Have we met before? Her heart stopped. No, Elara lit. The word came out fast. Too fast. Dante's eyes narrowed just slightly, and she knew. He didn't believe her. But he didn't push. Not yet. He stepped back, nodded once, and returned to the crowd like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just turned her entire plan upside down with 4 simple words. Alara moved toward the kitchen, legs shaking beneath her uniform. The tray rattled in her hands. She pushed through the swinging doors and set it down hard on the counter. A cook glanced at her, but she waved him off, gripping the steel edge until her knuckles turned white. He recognized her, or thought he did. Either way, she was running out of time. The kitchen hummed with controlled chaos. Orders shouted, pans clattering, steam rising from industrial stoves. Alara slipped past it all, heading for the service elevator at the back. The one that led to the private suites. The one no maid was supposed to use without permission. She pressed the button, waited. Her reflection stared back at her in the polished doors. Pale skin, dark hair pulled tight, eyes that looked too old for 24. Eyes that had watched her father die and couldn't do a damn thing about it. The elevator opened. She stepped inside. Would you walk into the lion's den if it meant finding the truth? Or would you walk away and let the past stay buried? Tell me in the comments. The ride up felt like drowning. Slow. Suffocating. When the doors opened on the 10th floor, the hallway stretched out in front of her. Thick carpet, dim lighting, doors with gold numbers. Suite 1012. Dante's room. She moved quickly, pulling a key card from her pocket. It had cost her 3 months of savings and a conversation with a security guard who asked too many questions. But it worked. The lock clicked green, and she slipped inside. The suite was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, rain sliding down the glass like tears. The furniture was expensive, untouched. Everything looked staged, like no one actually lived here. Like Dante Valenti existed somewhere else entirely. Alara moved to the desk. Papers. Folders. A laptop closed, but still warm. She opened the first folder, hands trembling, and froze. Her father's name stared back at her. Lucien Quinn, investigative journalist. 47 years old. Deceased. Deceased. Such a cold word for murder. She flipped through the pages. Financial records. Interviews. Photos of her father meeting with sources, shaking hands, laughing at something off camera. And then signatures. Documents she'd never seen before. Contracts signed in her father's handwriting, transferring money, approving deals, authorizing shipments. All of it fake. Alara's vision blurred. Her father never signed these. He'd been investigating the Valenti family's trafficking operations, not helping them. Someone forged his name, made him look guilty, gave them a reason to. Looking for something, she spun around. Dante stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. He didn't look angry. He looked tired, like he'd expected this, like he'd been waiting for her to show up. You, Alara said. Her voice shook. You did this. You framed him. No. Dante closed the door behind him. Locked it. But I know who did. Dante moved slowly, like he was approaching something dangerous. Maybe he was. Alara's hands curled into fists at her sides, and she had to fight the urge to throw something at his face. Don't come any closer, she warned. He stopped, raised his hands slightly, showing he wasn't armed. Alara Quinn, Lucien's daughter. You were 16 the last time I saw you. Her breath caught. You remember me. I remember the girl who asked if I wanted orange soda. His voice softened, and for a second, just a second, he didn't sound like a mafia boss. He sounded human. You were sitting outside your father's office, reading a book. You looked up when I walked past and offered me a drink from a cooler. Alara's chest tightened. She did remember. 8 years ago, she'd been young, naive, thought everyone was good until proven otherwise. She'd smiled at the tall man in the expensive suit and asked if he was thirsty. He'd said no thank you, but he'd smiled back. She hadn't known who he was then. Hadn't known his family's name was built on blood. That doesn't change anything, Alara said. Your family killed my father. My father killed yours. Dante's jaw tightened. Not me. You're a Valenti. That makes you guilty. Does it? He stepped closer. She didn't move. Your father was investigating Don Carlo Valenti. My father. He found evidence of trafficking routes, offshore accounts, bribes paid to judges and senators. He was going to expose everything. So my father ordered him killed and made it look like suicide. But I wasn't part of that decision. I didn't even know until it was too late. Would you believe the son of a monster if he said he wasn't one too? Drop your thoughts below. Alara stared at him. Her whole body felt like it was vibrating, like she might shatter if she moved wrong. You're lying. I'm not. Dante reached into his jacket. Alara tensed, but he only pulled out a phone. He unlocked it, scrolled through something, then held it out to her. Look. She hesitated, then took it. The screen showed a document. An email chain. Subject line, Lucien Quinn, final decision. The messages were dated 3 years ago, just days before her father died. Don Carlo. The journalist is a problem. Handle it. Dante. There are other ways. Let me talk to him. Don Carlo, no. This ends tonight. Dante, if you do this, I'm done. Don Carlo, you'll do what you're told, or you'll join him. Alara's hand shook. She scrolled further. More emails, more arguments, and then a final message from Dante, sent hours after her father's death. I'll never forgive you for this. She looked up. Dante was watching her carefully, like he was afraid she might break. I left the family after that, he said quietly. Spent 2 years dismantling everything my father built, shutting down routes, burning bridges, turning evidence over to people I trusted. But I couldn't bring your father back. I couldn't undo what happened. Then why are you still here? Alara's voice cracked. Why are you still using his name? Because someone has to clean up the mess. Dante took the phone back. My father's dead now. Heart attack last year. But his empire didn't die with him. My brother Vincent took over. And he's worse. Smarter. More careful. If I disappear completely, there's no one left to stop him. Alara's mind raced. This didn't make sense. None of it made sense. Dante Valeni was supposed to be the enemy. The monster. The man she'd spent 3 years planning to destroy. But standing here, looking into his eyes, all she saw was exhaustion. Regret. Guilt that looked a lot like her own. I don't believe you, she whispered. Dante nodded slowly. I wouldn't either. He turned toward the door. Stopped. Look back. If you want the truth, meet me tomorrow. 2 p.m. The old chapel on 7th Street. I'll bring everything I have. Every file, every record, every piece of evidence that proves your father was innocent. His voice dropped. And if you still think I'm lying after that, you can do whatever you want of me. I won't stop you. Then he left. Alara stood alone in the suite. Her father's forged signature still burned in her mind, and one question screaming louder than all the others. What if Dante Valeni was telling the truth? The chapel smelled like old wood and broken prayers. Alara arrived early, slipping through the side door before anyone could see her. The building had been abandoned for years, stained glass cracked, pews covered in dust, altars stripped bare. It was the kind of place people forgot about, the kind of place where secrets went to hide. She sat in the back row and waited, her knife pressed against her thigh, hidden beneath her jeans. Just in case Dante was lying. Just in case this was a trap. Just in case she had to choose between justice and survival. The door creaked open at exactly 2 p.m. Dante walked in carrying a leather briefcase. He looked different in daylight, less polished, more real. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, a man who hadn't slept in days. He spotted her and stopped. You came. You said you had proof. Alara stood. Show me. He set the briefcase on a pew and opened it. Inside were files. Dozens of them. Organized, labeled, color-coded. He pulled out the first stack and held it toward her. These are the original documents your father was investigating. Shipping manifests. Bank transfers. Names of politicians on my father's payroll. Dante's voice was steady, clinical. And these, he pulled out another stack, are the forgeries. The ones they used to frame him. Alara took them. Her hands didn't shake this time. She flipped through page after page, comparing signatures, dates, details. Her father's real handwriting versus the fake. It was subtle. Whoever forged these knew what they were doing. But it wasn't perfect. The pressure was wrong. The slant too careful. Her father always wrote fast, messy, like his thoughts moved quicker than his pen. These signatures were too neat, too controlled. He didn't sign these, she said. No, he didn't. Would you trust evidence from the enemy? Or would you assume it's just another lie wrapped in truth? Comment your answer. Alara looked up. Who forged them? My father's lawyer, Marcus Delgado. He specialized in making problems disappear. Dante pulled out another file. He's still working for Vincent now. Still covering up crimes. Still destroying lives. Where is he? Dead. Dante's expression hardened. Car accident 2 months ago. Brakes failed on a mountain road. Very convenient. Vincent killed him. Probably. Delgado knew too much. And Vincent doesn't like loose ends. Alara set the files down. Her chest felt tight. All this evidence, all this proof, and it didn't change the fact that her father was still gone. That she'd spent 3 years hating a man who might have been trying to help. Why are you showing me this? She asked. What do you want? Dante met her eyes. I want you to help me finish what your father started. What? Vincent is expanding, faster than my father ever did. He's moving into new territory, weapons, cybercrime, political blackmail. If we don't stop him now, he'll be untouchable in a year. Dante stepped closer. Your father died trying to expose this family. I've been trying to dismantle it from the inside, but I can't do it alone. I need someone the press will believe. Someone with a name people trust. My father's name, Ilera said slowly. Yes. She laughed. It came out bitter, sharp. You want me to be the face of your redemption arc. The dead journalist's daughter teaming up with the reformed Mafia prince. That's your plan? It's not about redemption. Dante's voice dropped. It's about making sure no one else dies the way your father did. It's about burning this empire to the ground before it spreads any further. Ilera stared at him. Every instinct told her to walk away, to take the files and disappear, to let the Valentis destroy each other without her. But then she thought about her father, about the way he used to say justice wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure the truth couldn't be buried. If I do this, she said slowly, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for him. I know. And if I find out you're lying to me, if any of this is fake, I will destroy you myself. Dante nodded. I wouldn't expect anything less. He held out his hand. Ilera looked at it, at the man who carried her enemy's name, at the choice that would change everything. She reached out and shook it. 1 year, she said. We have 1 year to take Vincent down. After that, we're done. You go your way, I go mine, and we never speak again. Agreed. They stood there in the abandoned chapel, hands clasped, two people bound by blood and guilt, and a promise neither of them was sure they could keep. Outside, thunder rolled across the city, and somewhere in the Valenti mansion, Vincent was making plans of his own. The press conference happened on a Tuesday. Ilera stood at the podium wearing her father's watch and a black dress that made her look older than 24. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. The room buzzed with the kind of energy that comes before something explodes. Beside her, Dante stood perfectly still, hands folded, expression neutral, like he was already dead and just waiting for the world to catch up. My name is Ilera Quinn, she began. Her voice echoed through the conference hall. 3 years ago, my father, Lucien Quinn, was murdered. The police called it suicide. The media called it scandal. But I'm here today to tell you the truth. She pulled out the files. The real ones. The forged ones. Side by side. My father was investigating the Valenti crime family. He uncovered evidence of human trafficking, money laundering, and political corruption at the highest levels. And when he got too close, Don Carlo Valenti had him killed. Then they framed him, made it look like he was part of the operation he was trying to expose. The room erupted. Voices overlapping. Questions thrown like weapons. How do you know this? Where's your proof? Why come forward now? Ilera raised her hand. Silence fell slowly, reluctantly, because the man standing next to me gave me the proof. She looked at Dante. Dante Valenti spent 2 years collecting evidence against his own family. He's been dismantling his father's empire piece by piece. And today, he's ready to confess everything. If you had to choose between protecting family and doing what's right, which would you pick? Let me know below. Dante stepped forward. The cameras turned to him like predators sensing blood. My name is Dante Valenti, he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. My father was Don Carlo Valenti. And everything Ilera just said is true. I have financial records, witness testimonies, and recorded conversations that prove the Valenti family has been operating a criminal enterprise for over 30 years. I'm turning all of it over to the authorities today, and I'm prepared to face whatever consequences come from that decision. The room exploded again, louder this time, desperate, hungry. Ilera watched the reporters surge forward, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt something other than rage. She felt hope. Maybe this would work. Maybe the truth would be enough. Maybe her father's death wouldn't be meaningless after all. That night, the story broke everywhere. Every channel, every website, every newspaper in the country ran some version of the same headline. Valenti heir confesses 2 family crimes. Ilera sat in a hotel room across town, watching the coverage on a laptop. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists, lawyers, people claiming to be family she'd never heard of. She ignored them all. There was a knock at the door. She tensed. Reached for the knife she kept close. "Who is it?" "It's me. Dante." She opened the door slowly. He looked worse than he had that morning. Pale, shaking, like the weight of what he'd done was finally hitting him. "They arrested Vincent an hour ago," he said. "Federal agents. They're raiding the family properties right now." "Good." "Alara." He stepped inside, closed the door. "There's something you need to know." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "Vincent knew we were coming. Someone tipped him off. He moved most of the money offshore last week. Destroyed records. Paid off witnesses." Dante's hands curled into fists. "The confession will hurt him, but it won't destroy him. Not completely." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't over. Vincent's going to come after us. Both of us. And he's not going to stop until—" The window shattered. Glass exploded inward. Alara hit the ground, hands over her head. Someone was shooting. Bullets tore through the walls, the furniture, everything. Dante grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the bathroom. They crashed through the door together, and he slammed it shut, bracing his body against it. "Stay down," he said. The shooting stopped. Silence rushed in, heavy and wrong. "Il arrête Iran." Her hands were bleeding from the glass. She looked up at Dante, and he looked back, and they both knew the same thing. Vincent had just declared war. 1 year later, Alara walked into the Montclair Hotel like she owned it. Because she did. Or at least, she owned part of it. Director of Operations. Her name on the door. Her signature on contracts. Her face in magazines next to headlines about redemption and second chances. The same ballroom where she'd once worn a maid's uniform now glittered with her success. Another gala. Another charity event. But this time, she wasn't hiding. She was front and center, shaking hands with senators and CEOs, smiling for cameras that used to ignore her. Dante stood near the bar, watching. He looked the same, dark suit, careful eyes, the weight of his family names still pressing down on his shoulders. They'd kept their distance this past year. Professional, polite, nothing more. The plan had been simple. Survive Vincent's retaliation, build new lives, move forward separately. But plans had a way of falling apart. A reporter approached her, microphone extended. "Ms. Quinn, you've risen incredibly fast in the past year. Some people are asking how someone with no hospitality experience became a director so quickly. What do you say to those critics?" Alara smiled, the kind of smile that looked warm but felt like glass. "I say that people who survive the impossible learn to do the impossible. My father taught me that." "In your relationship with Dante Valeni? Are you still in contact?" "Mr. Valeni and I worked together to expose corruption. That chapter of my life is closed." The reporter pressed. "But surely you must have feelings about—" "Thank you for your time." Alara turned away, moving through the crowd with practiced grace. Dante caught her eye across the room. He raised his glass slightly. Not a toast, more like a goodbye. She raised hers back. "Would you forgive someone who helped destroy the person who hurt you, even if it meant they'd suffer too? Tell me what you think in the comments." The next morning, the headlines exploded. Alara woke to her phone vibrating off the nightstand. She grabbed it, eyes still blurry, and saw the notifications flooding in. Hundreds of them. Thousands. She opened the news app. Valeni Empire exposed. Complete financial records leaked to press. Her heart stopped. She scrolled through the article. Bank accounts. Shell companies. Names of politicians, judges, businessmen, all of them connected to Vincent Valeni. All of them caught. All of them exposed. And at the bottom of the article, a single line, documents provided anonymously by sources close to the Valeni investigation. Alara knew exactly who those sources were. She'd done it. Sometime between the press conference last year and now, she'd gathered every remaining piece of evidence, every hidden file, every secret Vincent thought was buried. And she'd sent it all to every major newspaper in the country. Her phone rang. "Dante." She answered. "Did you see?" "I saw." His voice sounded strained. "Alara, what did you do? What you were too afraid to do?" She stood, pacing her apartment. "I finished it. Vincent's done. The entire empire is done. It's over." "It's not over." Dante's voice dropped. You just painted a target on your back. Vincent's going to. The line went dead. Alara pulled the phone away, stared at the screen. Call disconnected. She tried calling back. No answer. Texted. Nothing. Her apartment suddenly felt too quiet, too exposed. She grabbed her keys and ran. The press conference was chaos. Dante stood at the podium, cameras flashing like lightning, reporters shouting over each other. He looked smaller somehow, tired, like the weight of every crime his family ever committed had finally crushed him. I won't make a statement, he said. His voice barely cut through the noise. The room settled, slowly, reluctantly. Everything you've read in the past 24 hours is true. My brother, Vincent Valeni, has been operating a criminal enterprise with the help of politicians, law enforcement, and business leaders across the country. I've spent the last year gathering evidence to prove it. And I'm here today to take full responsibility for my part in allowing this to continue as long as it did. A reporter shouted, Are you confessing to crimes? Yes. Dante's hands gripped the podium. I knew about my family's operations for years. I tried to stop them from the inside, but I should have gone to the authorities sooner. I should have done more. And because I didn't, people died. Families were destroyed. Lives were ruined. Alara watched from the back of the room, hidden behind a pillar. She hadn't expected him to do this. Hadn't expected him to sacrifice himself when he could have stayed quiet and disappeared. I'm turning myself into federal authorities after this press conference, Dante continued. I'll cooperate fully with the investigation. I'll testify against everyone involved, and I'll accept whatever punishment the court decides. Would you sacrifice everything to make things right, even if the world would never fully forgive you? Drop your thoughts below. The room erupted. Questions flew like bullets. But Dante stepped away from the podium, walked toward the exit, and didn't look back. Alara pushed through the crowd, trying to reach him. Dante, wait. Two federal agents stepped in front of her. Ma'am, you need to stay back. I need to talk to him. That's not possible. She watched them lead Dante away in handcuffs. He looked back once, met her eyes, and something passed between them that felt like forgiveness. Or maybe regret. It was hard to tell the difference anymore. That night, Alara sat in her apartment and cried for the first time in 3 years. Not because Dante was gone. Not because the Valeni Empire had finally fallen. But because justice felt nothing like she thought it would. It felt empty, hollow, like winning a war only to realize everything you loved was already destroyed. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Alara Quinn. The voice was cold. Familiar. You took everything from me. Vincent, you took everything from yourself, she said. Did I? He laughed. You think putting me in prison changes anything? You think destroying the family business means you won? I still have people on the outside. I still have resources. And I still have your name written down in a very special place. Is that a threat? It's a promise. You and my brother thought you could walk away from this. But nobody walks away from a Valeni. Not alive. The line went dead. Alara sat frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Then she heard it. A car engine outside her building. Footsteps in the hallway. The scrape of metal against her door lock. She grabbed her knife and ran for the fire escape. 2 days later, they found Dante's car on a bridge outside the city. Driver's side door open. Blood on the seat. No body. The news called a mob hit. Revenge killing. The final casualty of the Valeni War. But Alara knew better. Because that night, someone knocked on the door of the safe house where she'd been hiding. And when she opened it, Dante was standing there, barely conscious, bleeding from a gunshot wound at his shoulder. Help me, he whispered. Then he collapsed. The cabin smelled like pine and old memories. Alara had found it 2 years ago while researching her father's past. A place he used to escape to when the world got too loud. Hidden in the mountains. No neighbors. No cell service. The kind of place where people went to disappear. She dragged Dante inside and locked the door. He was barely conscious, blood soaking through his shirt. She laid him on the couch, grabbed her father's old first aid kit, and got to work. The bullet had gone straight through. Clean. Lucky. You're going to live, she said, pressing gauze against the wound. Dante's eyes fluttered open. Maybe I don't want to. Too bad. She wrapped bandages tight. You don't get to die until this is finished. It is finished. Vincent won. Vincent's in prison, and his people are still out there. Dante winced as she tied off the bandage. They'll keep coming. For both of us. Until we're dead, or until they are. Alara sat back, hands covered in his blood. Then we make sure they die first. He looked at her. Really looked at her. You've changed. So have you. If someone saved your life, would you trust them completely? Or would part of you always wonder if they had another reason? Comment your answer. Over the next 3 days, Alara nursed Dante back to something resembling functional. She changed his bandages, forced him to eat, sat with him through fever dreams where he called out names of people who were already dead. On the 4th day, he was strong enough to sit up. Tell me what happened, Alara said. After the press conference, Dante leaned against the wall, pale but steady. They took me to a federal holding facility. Maximum security. But Vincent's reach goes deeper than we thought. He had guards on his payroll. They tried to kill me in my cell. Make it look like suicide. How did you escape? I didn't. They shot me and threw me in the river. Asumatidiron. He touched the bandage on his shoulder. But I washed up downstream. A fisherman found me, brought me to a hospital. I left before anyone could ask questions. And you came here. I didn't know where else to go. His voice softened. You're the only person I trust. Alara's chest tightened. Trust. Such a dangerous word. Such a fragile thing. Vincent called me, she said. 2 days ago. Threatened me. Said nobody walks away from a Valeni. He's right. Dante stood slowly, testing his strength. As long as he's alive, we're targets. But if we run, if we hide, we're just waiting to die. So what do? We finish what your father started. Dante walked to the window, looked out at the forest. We take everything Vincent has left and burn it to the ground. His accounts, his connections, his legacy. We make sure the Valeni name dies with him. Alara joined him at the window. Outside, snow had started to fall. That's going to take time. We have time. Vincent's people will find us. Let them try. She looked at him, at the man who'd confessed his family's crimes, who'd almost died trying to make things right, who'd shown up bleeding at her door because he had nowhere else to go. My father used to say justice isn't about revenge, Alara said quietly. It's about making sure the truth can't be buried. What do you say? She smiled. Not a happy smile. A dangerous one. I say we bury Vincent so deep, nobody will ever dig him up. Dante nodded. Then let's get to work. They spent the next month planning, researching, tracking every remaining piece of Vincent's empire. Bank accounts hidden in offshore havens. Properties registered under fake names. People who still took his orders from inside prison walls. And slowly, piece by piece, they started dismantling it all. The headline ran on a Tuesday. Valeni assets frozen. Federal investigation expands. Vincent saw it from his prison cell and through the newspaper across the room. Alara saw it from the cabin and smiled. It had taken 6 months. 6 months of late nights and careful planning and moving money in ways that looked legal until you looked closer. 6 months of calling in favors, leaking information, and making sure every reporter in the country knew exactly where to look. But it was working. Vincent's empire was bleeding out. His offshore accounts, drained and transferred to a newly established charity. His properties seized by federal agents. His connections turning on him one by one to save themselves. And at the center of it all, funding everything, supporting everything, was a foundation that bore her father's name. Lucien's Promise, an orphanage for children who'd lost parents to violence. A scholarship fund for journalists investigating corruption. A legal aid center for families destroyed by organized crime. Everything her father would have wanted. Everything Vincent had tried to prevent. Dante stood in the cabin's small kitchen, coffee in hand, reading the news on a laptop. He knows it's us. Good. Alara joined him. Let him know. He's going to send someone. Let him try. Would you risk everything to finish what your father started, even if it meant you might not survive to see it through? Tell me in the comments. That night, headlights cut through the darkness outside the cabin. Alara grabbed her gun. Dante moved to the window. They prepared for this. Planned for it. But planning and living through it were different things. The car stopped. Doors opened. 3 men stepped out. Vincent's men. Alara's heart hammered. How many? 3. Maybe more in the trees. We can't fight them all. We don't have to. Dante moved to the back door. We just have to survive long enough for backup to arrive. What backup? The FBI. I called them 2 hours ago. Told them Vincent ordered a hit. They're on their way. How long? 20 minutes. Maybe less. The front door exploded inward. Alara fired twice. 1 man dropped. The others scattered, returning fire. Bullets tore through the cabin, with splintering, glass shattering, everything collapsing. Dante grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the back. They ran into the forest, snow crunching under their feet, cold air burning their lungs. Shouts behind them. Footsteps. Gunfire. Alara turned and fired again. Missed. Fired again. Hit something. Someone screamed. They kept running. The forest opened into a clearing. Moonlight spilled across the snow, and standing in the center, waiting, was the last of Vincent's men. He raised his gun. Dante stepped in front of Alara. The shot echoed through the trees. Dante dropped. No! Alara caught him, hands shaking. Blood spread across his chest. Too much blood. The man walked closer, gun still raised. Vincent sends his regards. Sirens wailed in the distance. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. The man hesitated, looked back toward the road. Then at Alara. Next time, he said. Then he ran. Alara pressed her hands against Dante's chest, trying to stop the bleeding. Stay with me. Please. Just stay with me. His eyes fluttered open. Did we win? Yes. We won. Good. He smiled. Faint. Fading. Let me die then. No. Tears streamed down her face. You don't get to die. You don't get to leave. Not after everything. Not after. Alara. She looked at him. You'll live, he whispered. So the world remembers who you became. The FBI agents burst into the clearing just as his eyes closed. 5 years later, Alara stood at her father's grave. The headstone was simple. Lucian Quinn, beloved father, seeker of truth. And beneath it, carved in smaller letters, justice served in silence. Flowers covered the ground. Fresh ones. Someone had been here recently. Alara knelt, touching the cold stone. I finished it, Dad. Everything you started. The foundation's helping hundreds of kids now. Your name means something good again. The wind whispered through the cemetery. Leaves scattered across the grass. She stood slowly, started to walk away. Then stopped. A child stood near the gate. Maybe 6 years old. Dark hair. Big eyes. Holding a folded piece of paper. Are you Miss Quinn? The child asked. Alara nodded. I am. The child held out the paper. A man asked me to give this to you. Alara took it, hands trembling. What man? The one by the tree. The child pointed. But when Alara looked, no one was there. She unfolded the paper. The handwriting was familiar. Careful. Controlled. Thank you for teaching me mercy. Some debts aren't paid in blood. They're paid in truth. DV. Alara's breath caught. She looked around the cemetery. Searched the trees. The shadows. The distant paths. Nothing. But somewhere, in the quiet spaces between grief and hope, she felt him. Still alive. Still fighting. Still trying to make things right. She folded the note carefully and tucked it in her pocket. Then she knelt at her father's grave one more time and whispered, Some debts aren't paid in blood, Dad. They're paid in truth. And we paid ours. The sun broke through the clouds. Light spilled across the headstone. And for the first time in 8 years, Alara Quinn felt something other than anger. She felt peace. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about justice and mercy and the cost of doing what's right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales of quiet justice. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your words inspire others more than you know. Thank you for being part of this family. Until next time, remember, some battles are won not with violence, but with truth.